Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over and talking about stuff related to the Orioles and the Ravens in today's episode. It's been a while since we've done a mix episode of both Ravens content and Orioles content, but as of right now, there is obviously a lot of stuff going on for both teams. For the Ravens, today is Wednesday, so it is the first day of practice for this Jets week. The Ravens play the Jets this Sunday. And this is the first practice of the week leading up to that game on Sunday. You know, every single Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is when practices are for games on Sunday. And then obviously next week we have a short turnaround on Thanksgiving night. But we'll obviously get to next week whenever we get there. But the Ravens do play the Jets on Sunday. The first practice of the week was today. And there was some major players that were not at practice today. But everyone chill out. You know, there was some guys that were not at practice today that we're going to go over in just a second. But again, it is Wednesday, so we're not going to make any assumptions on anything until like tomorrow or Friday to see what the injury report looks like the rest of the week. But there was some major players missing from the Orioles practice today. But it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. We've seen this stuff before. This isn't anything new. Let's chill out. And I also think that the Ravens might be taking it a little bit easy this week because they are playing the Jets. Obviously, you don't want to overlook any opponent in the NFL, but I feel like that if there's any week to do so, it would be this week, and I don't think that that's part of the reason, but I think it factors in a little bit, but at the end of the day, we'll be fine. We'll go over that stuff in a second, but at the end of the episode, so in like the second half of the episode today, I do kind of want to give more thoughts on the Grayson Rodriguez and Taylor Ward trade that happened last night. Obviously, last night, like 10 to 15 minutes after the trade got announced, I recorded an episode. I uploaded it last night. If you haven't seen it, make sure to go check it out. It's the last episode before this one, episode 198. This is episode 199. Cannot believe we're already almost at episode 200, which will be either tomorrow or Friday. So that's going to be crazy. But I do want to kind of give more thoughts on the trade because I've seen a bunch of different mixed opinions on this trade, anywhere from saying that the Orioles completely got fleeced to saying that the Orioles made a good trade and just everything in between. So I kind of just want to give my opinions on it because I do think that I feel like I'm kind of in the minority in this situation. I do think that a majority of people, at least from I've seen on the Orioles side, I've seen a majority of Orioles fans say that they don't like this trade. I'm going to be honest, I don't mind this trade at all. I even said it yesterday that I didn't mind this, and I do think that things will be okay with the Orioles, but a big part of this trade is obviously waiting to see what ends up happening for the rest of free agency. Then you can kind of really give this, trade a grade because again, this team isn't a complete team yet. Like, if this was a trade that happened right before the season started and there wasn't any moves that had been made, then obviously it wouldn't make any sense. But I think that this is a move that legitimately sets up the Orioles to make some big moves this offseason. And again, and I said it yesterday, but I think it's a big sign of things to come. So I'm going to go over more of that in detail later on in this episode. But for right now, I do want to go over some Ravens some Ravens practice updates. So going over some Ravens practice updates from today. Obviously, it is Wednesday, the 19th of November of 2025, and it is currently Week 12 in the NFL. The Ravens are gearing up for the Jets this Sunday at home in Baltimore. Obviously, this on paper is probably the easiest game on the schedule for the Ravens, but there's been times before where we've seen the Ravens definitely play down to their opponent and make things more complicated than it should be. So I'm not in any way saying that they are going to overlook the Jets this week, but it is Wednesday, and Wednesday practices are always the least important practice of the week because in terms of injury reports, there could be something that pops up on the injury report on Wednesday, and then on Thursday and on Friday, they can come back to practice and everyone will be good to go. But there was quite a few players that were not practicing for the Ravens today. I do suspect that most of this is just like a rest day because we didn't really get any notion or any sort of news after the game. Even with John Harbaugh's press conference on Monday, he said that there wasn't really any sort... Like, he said that the only injury and only thing that was a little concerning was the Keon Martin injury, but he didn't say that that was going to be anything long-term. And immediately after the game, throughout the game, there was no real indication that anything was like wrong with any of like it seemed like we got out of the game pretty healthy. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like we got out of the game pretty healthy. So it is a little bit weird seeing all these guys not practicing, and the guys that I'm referring to is Lamar Jackson was not practicing, Kyle Hamilton wasn't practicing, Roquan Smith wasn't practicing, and then Rashad Bateman, Ronnie Stanley, Andrew Voorhees, Isaiah Likely, and Keon Martin all weren't practicing. And then Marlon Humphrey and Justice Hill did return to practice because Marlon Humphrey had that little procedure done on his finger. They said he was going to be out for the week, but he should be back now. Like if Marlon Humphrey's already at practice this week, Marlon should be good to go for this upcoming game. Justice Hill also returned to practice. I don't even really know what type of a role Justice Hill is going to have for the rest of the season because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I would, like again, I know Keaton Mitchell had the ball that tipped off of his hands like on the screen. It was a screen pass to Keaton Mitchell, went off of his gloves into the air that led to the pick six. I understand that. And Justice Hill obviously is a great receiving back as well, but and him having some touches in this offense is going to help. But Keaton Mitchell has done a great job. Other than that, big mishap that happened in the Browns game, he's done a pretty good job running the football. He's really brought some energy and explosiveness, and obviously. There's been times like I remember in the Vikings game where Derrick Henry really wasn't going throughout the game, and then Keaton Mitchell had a couple like pretty big runs, and then Derrick Henry started getting like some good runs and some good holes. So Keaton Mitchell has been definitely like a jolt in this offense, which is great. And obviously we've seen Justice Hill be a very reliable, receiving back option for Lamar in the past. So I expect him obviously to have a role still. But Marlon Humphrey coming back is obviously good news. But Lamar, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Rashad Bateman, Ronnie Stanley, Andrew Voorhees, Isaiah Likely, Keon Martin. That is 8 players not practicing for the Ravens today. And to be honest with you, that is 7 starters that isn't practicing for the Ravens today. 7 very key players. Obviously Lamar Jackson, Kyle Hamilton being among the most important guys there. But if you remember back to last week, Lamar Jackson didn't practice on Wednesday last week because of knee soreness. Now, I don't know the exact injuries right now. The Ravens are going to release it in a few hours, but I just kind of wanted to get this episode recorded right now because at the same and the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't think that any of these injuries are anything that's going to keep these guys out. I think that Lamar, Kyle, Roquan, Ronnie, Andrew Voorhees, Isaiah Likely, I think they're all going to play on Sunday. The only ones that I say that might not play are Rashad Bateman and Keon Martin. Rashad Bateman obviously dealing with that high ankle sprain. They said it wasn't anything serious, but that he might be out a couple of weeks. So this isn't anything surprise. Like Rashad Bateman not practicing is not surprising. Keon Martin not practicing is not surprising. But Lamar, Kyle, Roquan, Ronnie, and Andrew Voorhees and Isaiah Likely, those are all ones that kind of popped up out of nowhere. Lamar last week didn't practice on Wednesday due to knee soreness, and everyone was freaking out. Everyone was going crazy. Oh my God, Lamar's not at practice. What's going on? They said it was knee soreness. He ended up having a full practice on Thursday, Friday, and he was obviously good to go for the game on this past Sunday. So I expect this to kind of be the same exact thing. I don't want to make any assumptions about any of these injuries or any of these stuff that's going on until tomorrow. But I just have a feeling that a lot of these guys that are here is not because of an injury. I legitimately think that Lamar, Kyle, Roquan, Ronnie, Andrew Voorhees, I think these are all rest days, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. And I also say that because the Ravens are about to play 2 football games in a short period of time. The Ravens are obviously playing the Jets this weekend. The Jets are not a great team. The Jets are not a great team. The Ravens are obviously going to be heavily favored in this game. I don't know the exact spread right now, but the Ravens are going to be playing are going to be playing 2 games in a short period of time. They play this Sunday, and then they have a quick turnaround to next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, because they are playing on Thanksgiving night. So technically they play, 2 games in 8 days? Because it'll be a week from tomorrow that the Ravens play again, because they play on Sunday and then they play on Thursday night for the Thanksgiving primetime game against the Bengals. So they are going to be playing 2 games in a short period of time. So I think giving some of these key guys maybe a rest day today, having them come back tomorrow and Friday, and then obviously playing the game Sunday, having the short turnaround, quick practice weeks from Sunday to Thursday. So this makes sense. If that's the case. If these are rest days, I understand it because they, again, are playing 2 games in a short period of time. So this isn't the most surprising thing in the world. And again, if there was a game where you can rest somebody for one day out of the week leading up to the game on the first practice of the week, it would be the Jets. But again, we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, you don't want to overlook any opponent in the NFL because we've seen the Ravens play down to their opponents before. But again, we'll have to see what the injury report looks like tomorrow. Because if like Lamar, Kyle, Roquan, Ronnie, Isaiah Likely, if some of these guys aren't practicing tomorrow, then we can start making assumptions. Then we can start being a little bit concerned. Again, I don't know the exact injuries of any of these players. I don't know why they're on the injury report. The Ravens might put out and either say rest or they might say like a soreness of some sort. But any of these guys, like all these guys should be available on Sunday. Like all these guys should be available and good to go on Sunday. And hopefully the Ravens this Sunday against the Jets, who just, again, traded their two best players on defense at the trade deadline and are not a good team at all. Hopefully and they're going to be starting Tyrod Taylor this weekend, so, I mean, that's all there is to say about that. But hopefully the Ravens this upcoming game against the Jets can kind of be up by a lot going into the fourth quarter, because I would love to be able to rest the starters in the fourth quarter of this Jets game, so then you're extra healthy and you get a little bit of extra rest, because it is a quick turnaround for the game on Thursday or next Thursday against the Bengals. So again, these guys not practicing, I'm not freaking out about it. I know some guys are going crazy. Some guys are freaking out. Oh my God, everyone's injured again. Like it's back to the beginning of the season. What's going on? Because, again, the Ravens at the beginning of the year were very heavily injured. You know, we lost a lot of guys that are on this list. Lamar, Kyle, Roquan, Ronnie. Like we lost a lot of these guys at the beginning of the season. I remember, like, coming out of the Chiefs game, we were heavily injured. And all these guys are back, obviously, going into, like, the Vikings game and the Dolphins game, we were fully healthy. But this past game against the Browns, we were a little bit injured. And we're going to probably be a little bit injured going into the game against the Jets. You know, we're probably not going to have Rashad Bateman. I expect Bateman to maybe come back on Thursday against the Bengals, but the safest bet is probably for him to come back against the Steelers in week, 14? That would probably be the safest bet, is that he would come back in week 14. But we'll see what ends up happening. Again, Rashad Bateman dealing with that high ankle sprain. It was considered a mild high ankle sprain, not a season-ending thing, not an IR thing. He could potentially even practice tomorrow, or he could either practice tomorrow or Friday, and I wouldn't even be too surprised by it. But Bateman hopefully is going to be coming back soon. But all the other guys on this list, Lamar, Kyle, Roquan, Ronnie, Andrew Voorhees, Isaiah Likely, all of these guys I expect to be out there as of right now on Sunday. We'll see what the Ravens say about the injury report. We'll see what they'll say about these guys. But as of right now, I do think that they're going to be out there. I think that this is more of a precautionary thing, taking into consideration the fact that they are going to be playing 2 games within the span of like 8 days from now. Really 2 games in like the span of 5 days by the time that we get to the game on Sunday. So things will be fine. We'll obviously go over more of it tomorrow to make sure that it's not too big of a deal. If we get the injury report tomorrow and these guys are still out and we get more updates on it, then obviously there's reason for concern, but we're not going to worry about that until tomorrow, until we actually get the news tomorrow, or even like later today where we get the news from John Harbaugh himself. Because again, I think everything is going to be fine. So now going over and switching up sports here, talking about the Baltimore Orioles, I do want to go over this Taylor Ward and Grayson Rodriguez trade. There's not a ton of stuff to it. Obviously, a lot of trades in the MLB are like, prospects and different guys like that, and it's like you have to do a whole deep dive on these guys and the prospects and how they, their age and how they're doing in their like AA or AAA or wherever they are. Because a lot of trades in baseball have to do with prospects. It's very rare kind of that you see a good old-fashioned 1-for-1 player trade. But that's what happened last night, where the Orioles traded Grayson Rodriguez for outfielder Taylor Ward. It was a 1-for-1 deal. A lot of people have different mixed opinions on it. I've seen Orioles fans say that, and this is what I'll say about Orioles fans, right? I understand the idea of trading a 26-year-old who had shown and proven that he can be a worthy, frontline starter for a team because of his strikeout stuff, because he has very good strikeout stuff. We've seen that in the games that he started for the Orioles in the past few years. So I understand the idea of trading a 26-year-old who who has a high upside, good strikeout stuff, can be a front-of-the-line starter, and someone who has 4 years left under their contract and 4 years left to control. I understand the idea of trading, and plus, for an Orioles team that is already dealing with problems for starting pitching, so you're even more thin at starting pitching. For me, I don't really think we're more thin at starting pitching because, to be honest with you guys, I wasn't even really factoring in Grayson Rodriguez as a true part of this rotation anyway, because I just didn't think that we could ever really rely on him. And Mike Elias last week literally said that Grayson was a wild card for the rotation, which just kind of showed that he was not very confident in Grayson Rodriguez, and he was a little bit iffy on really committing to him. And a big part of that is obviously due to his injury history at such a young age already, and maybe some problems within the medicals, and doing like the analytics of the medicals and digging deep into stuff like that. He probably just didn't trust Grayson. But again, the idea of trading a 26-year-old pitcher who has high upside, who has 4 years left to control, the idea of trading him for a 31-year-old outfielder who, again, is coming off the best season of his career with 36 homers and 103 RBIs, lower average, like a 228 average, but still 36 homers, 103 RBIs, got the job done. The idea of trading a 26-year-old pitcher for a 31-year-old outfielder who only has 1 year left on his deal, which is this upcoming season, like he's literally a free agent after this season. I mean, he's a free agent after the season. So 1 year of Taylor Ward on paper compared to 4 years of Grayson Rodriguez, who's younger, obviously doesn't make a ton of sense on paper. But again, if that was the case just on paper, then first of all, if everything was on paper, the Ravens would have won a Super Bowl by now. But if everything was but if that was on paper, then obviously the trade wouldn't make any sense. But there's a lot more to it, as I've alluded to already. Grayson Rodriguez has dealt with several injuries throughout his young baseball career in the majors. We called him up back in 2023. He pitched for us in 2023 and 2024. And obviously he was out all of last season with a lat injury and an elbow injury and stuff like that. And again, it is a little bit frustrating because in 2023, dealt with some injury, pitched for us in the playoffs. He was horrendous. Then, obviously, going into 2024, we traded for Corbin Burns, and Grayson Rodriguez was the number 2 starter behind Corbin. But the Orioles viewed Grayson as the potential future ace of this club just a couple of years ago. And now, obviously, that kind of got burned up in flames. But 2024, he was injured at the beginning of the season, and then he dealt with injuries later in the season, and he wasn't available for us in the playoffs or at the end of the year in 2024. And the last game that he pitched for the Orioles was in July of 2024. So at the start of the second half in 2024 was the last time that he pitched for us. And not even the last time he pitched for us, the last time he pitched in general in the majors was in 2024 at the end of July. So it's been a while since he's pitched. Obviously dealt with the injury at the end of 2024, kept him out of all that. Then he pitched a little bit in spring training in 2025 this year. Pitched a little bit in spring training, then dealt with it. He was going to most likely be the opening day starter if he was healthy. Then he dealt with injury in spring training. He was out at the beginning of 2025, and then as time went on, he was eventually going to come back. He was on his way to the road to recovery, and he was going to come back, and then he dealt with an entirely new injury, and then he eventually got elbow surgery to clean up his elbow, and he was out all of 2025. So he hasn't pitched in. By the time that the MLB season starts, he wouldn't have pitched in almost 2 years. But the Angels did say that they expect him to be ready for spring training, but we'll see how that goes. But Grayson Rodriguez has dealt with so many injuries in his young career, and for someone like Mike Elias, who this trade was kind of him putting his foot down and kind of just being done with the Grayson Rodriguez experiment, dealing with so many injuries at a young age. Obviously, when you're dealing with that many injuries at a young age for a pitcher in baseball, most of the time it doesn't really get better. And Angels fans are obviously extremely worried about his arm and about his health, which they should be. But I think that Mike Elias, obviously calling Grayson a wild card for the rotation, didn't put a lot of confidence in Grayson Rodriguez, which was obvious. But this trade for the Orioles, in my opinion, was not bad at all. I think the fact that, and a lot of people were kind of talking about, oh, did the Angels approach the Orioles for Grayson, or did the Orioles approach the Angels trying to shop Grayson? Because I don't think that the Orioles were going out trying to get Taylor Ward, unless they really, really wanted Taylor Ward and looked at the analytics and the statistics and the fit, and they really thought it was going to be a good fit. I don't think that's what happened. I think that the Orioles were actively shopping Grayson Rodriguez, because before free agency really kicks in, obviously free agency is already open right now, but before like the starting pitchers get signed, before the hitters get signed, before free agency really, really, really starts to get going, whenever that is, whenever free agency, like before free agency starts to get going, I think that Mike Elias was done with the Grayson Rodriguez experiment. His arm must be cooked. His medicals must be cooked, because again, I don't think you trade a 26-year-old pitcher with 4 years of control on an already weak pitching staff. I don't think you trade someone like that if their arm was not completely cooked and you just didn't have any confidence in him being a contributor, a part of your rotation moving forward. And I also don't think you make that move if you weren't confident that you're going to get one of the top guys in free agency this year. Someone like a Framber Valdez, a Dylan Cease, a Michael King, a Ranger Suarez, someone like that. The Orioles have to go out and get one of those guys, and then they also need to go get like another mid-tier arm, and then obviously they need to get some high leverage relievers and bullpen guys, including one of the good closers available. So the wish list, it might seem like I'm asking for a lot, but to be honest with you, it really isn't. Because the Orioles, they have to right the wrongs of last season, and I think that doing this trade kind of does open up really, like, it opens up the opportunity to get a really good starting pitcher or pitchers in general. It opens it up even more. It puts more pressure on the front office to make a move, but I don't think that Mike would have made this move if he wasn't confident that he was. Like, I don't think he would have made the move if he wasn't confident that he was going to land one of the top guys. You know what I mean? I think that Mike Elias is confident in landing one of the top guys in free agency. I think he has a couple of names that he wants to go after, maybe like a Ranger or Michael King or someone like that, or a Framber or a Cease. Those are the top four guys, in my opinion, that the Orioles need to go after. I'm not saying sign all four guys, because obviously that's not going to happen. But if they can get one of those four guys, I'll be happy, and then like another mid-tier arm for the starting pitching. But again, I just don't think he would have made the move if he wasn't confident. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, in the world and the reality, if the Orioles don't make any major moves in free agency and they sit back and, you know, sit on their hands again and don't go out there and are willing to open up their wallet, which, once again, we've gotten reports all offseason over the past few weeks that the Orioles are going to be one of the most aggressive teams in free agency. They're going to be the most aggressive team regarding pitching, that Mike Elias is willing to open up his wallet and go into an area that they're uncomfortable with if it means getting the guys that they want. Like, we've heard this all offseason over the past few weeks, and eventually, like, these rumors and these reports got to be true, you know what I'm saying? And if we sit back and play cheap again after all these reports that we're going to go out and spend, and if we're going to be cheap after this trade, first of all, it would make absolutely no sense, and it would be one of the most bizarre things that a general manager has ever done, and it would be a worse job than last offseason, which I don't even think could have gotten any worse. Like, I don't even know how you could have gotten worse from last offseason. But if we don't do anything, first of all, we're cooked. If we don't do anything, we are absolutely cooked. Mike Elias needs to get fired immediately if he doesn't make any major moves this offseason. But I think that him doing this trade really does, like, signal and set things, and it really is a sign of good things to come for the future. I really do think that he's making a statement here saying, I'm going to trade one of my young arms who has injury problems, but the Angels are obviously taking a gamble with this guy. We're going to go trade for a rental outfielder with a lot of power, with a lot of pop, and someone who on a bad Angels team was able to bring in 103 RBIs, which would have been first on the Orioles by a mile. He had 36 home runs, which would have been first on the Orioles this season by a mile. So they went out, got a one-year rental guy who they think can be a really big contributor in this lineup, which he is going to be, hopefully. And you get this one-year rental. This is a win-now move. And in win-now moves, you go out there and make aggressive moves to go get some pitchers on some longer deals that set up the now and the future of the team. So I think that if Mike doesn't go out and make moves, we're cooked, and I have no idea what he's doing. But if he goes out and makes the moves that we all think that he is going to and should make, because it's obvious that they're going to go after and hopefully sign one of the top guys. I mean, you have MLB Network and a Bleacher Report and Jeff Passan and all these guys saying that like the Orioles are going after and are expected to sign one of the top guys available, and also maybe some bullpen arms, some high leverage guys, a closer, whatever. But the main priority right now is getting a high end starting pitcher, and then you kind of just go from there. You know what I mean? Because then you can go after the relievers and stuff like that. But if they don't make a move, we're cooked. If they make a move, then obviously it makes this trade look a lot better because you get rid of pitching, which you're already thin at, but then you replace it with some guys over the next few years on some multi-year deals that are going to be great. And then you pair whoever we get in this offseason alongside Rogers and Bradish. And then all of a sudden you have a very solid pitching rotation going into the year, and then you look at the lineup, and not only do you have a very solid pitching rotation with hopefully some of the top guys that they get this year, but then you go and look at the lineup, and you still have a young lineup of guys that are hopefully going to get better. You have Gunnar Henderson, who's looking to have a bounce-back year after a disappointing year. A bounce-back year with the power this year, so you're looking for Gunnar to have a bounce-back year. You know what Colton and Jordan can do if they're healthy. Sam Obasayo and Dylan Beavers officially in their rookie seasons this year, like in their full rookie seasons this year. Jackson Holiday continuing to get better. And then you have Taylor Ward in the middle of that lineup to be that power guy and more of a veteran guy in the middle of the lineup, a power guy who just hit 36 home runs, had 103 RBIs. Put him in the middle of the lineup, and all of a sudden the lineup for the Orioles looks a hell of a lot better. And you add that along with the hopeful good pitching, and all of a sudden you have an Orioles team that is kind of in a win-now mode, and a team that can definitely compete for the American League East in a very tough division. Again, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Rays. It's a very tough division, but I think that the Orioles can be in a position where not only can they compete for the division this season, but I think if they can get the pitching right and the development keeps happening with these young guys, I do think that over the next few years, they're going to once again be one of those prominent teams in the American League like they were in 2023 and 2024. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Make sure to click the link in the bio to check out the Twitter and the Instagram. I post all the time on Twitter. Make sure to give that a follow. I appreciate all of you guys so much. Episode 200 will be either tomorrow or Friday, so big things to come. Again, thank you guys so much for all the support on this channel. It's going to keep continuing to hopefully get bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually, hopefully, it's going to be a mainstay name. So I appreciate all the guys and all the people that have been sticking with me throughout this whole thing. It's been a lot of fun. And again, this is really just the beginning. We're going to keep going with the show. There's still obviously a lot of sports to talk about. We got the rest of the Ravens season. We've got the Orioles off season, which is going to be really exciting. I already got a big move that happened yesterday. And again, lots of good things to come. So again, I appreciate all of you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow or Friday. You have a great sales day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see you all later. Peace out.